scientist. Da, da, da. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Victor Hamza, and just wanted to talk about another theory I came up with. Not really mine per se, but maybe I took it down a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, and I thought you'd be entertained. So let's get right into it, shall we? So I'm going to talk about the Matrioshka brain nested reality simulation theory. Maybe you haven't heard this one before. I doubt you have. Okay, so just to get right into it, we have, so let's talk about simulation theory. Simulation theory, stated very well by Nick Bostrom, which came out with this, I believe in 2014, came out with a theory that stated that our reality is all simulation. Right? I'm sure maybe you've heard about it. You're a little bit familiar at this point. If not, look it up. I don't like to spend a lot of time on educating you about the finer details of it, but in essence, that his theory of a simulation theory is like, in a way, like we'd be living in a type of matrix, like a total simulation. In the movie The Matrix, if you haven't watched that, it's a good movie, check it out. If you have, then I'll continue, and if you haven't, I'll continue anyway. So it would state in the movie that it basically we would be wired into a computer simulation, where in fact Nick Bostrom saying that we would be part of the computer simulation, so there isn't a way for us to be separate from it, right? So, and then Nick Bostrom goes on to say that, and Elon Musk would say, they came to him and they said, what do you think about us being in a simulation? And he said, well, it's 1 in billions chance that we're not in a simulation. So, Nick Bostrom states that if we are in a simulation, then why would we be in one? And then one of the reasons he said is that they would be our ancestors who would be our people in which would be now would be running ancestor simulations to see what it would be like in the past. Although I don't see the great interest in that, but I have another theory why we'd be in the simulation, so I just thought I'd talk about that for a bit. So, and it kind of makes some sense. So let's dive into that now. Just to get back into Nick Bostrom's theory about what he's saying about the simulation hypothesis. From I haven't spoken in a while, so my tongue's a little tired. So he's saying that there's 3 basic things that, with Bostrom's, the fracturing human level civilizations that reach a post-human stage that is one capable of running high fidelity ancestor simulations is very close to 0. They would see the unlikely propositions. One of these has to be true, he says. Number 2, the fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running ancestor simulations is very close to 0. Or the fraction of all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1. The trilemma points out that this technology, mature post-human civilization, would have enormous computing power. Even if a tiny percentage of them were to run ancestor simulations, that is high fidelity simulations of ancestral life that would be indistinguishable from reality as simulated ancestor. Total number of simulated ancestors or sims in the universe of multiverse, if it exists, would greatly exceed the total number of actual ancestors. Bostrom goes on to use a type of anthropomorphic reasoning to claim that if the third proposition is one of those 3 that is true, then almost all people of our kind of experiences live in simulations. They're most certainly living in a simulation. So just to wrap that up, in essence, it means that if there's any probability at all that we would be in a simulation, then that would have to be the case. So let's take it a step a little bit further. So let's say that you have a computer, and let's say you build a quantum computer, and it's not just smart, it's hyper intelligent. You know, what do you do with it? What do you do with it when you have it sitting on the shelf and it's not doing anything? Maybe it's in sleep mode, right? So let's say you have this huge, gigantic computer in sleep mode. We could be literally in sleep mode of it doing its sleep mode. That's how advanced it would be. Okay, so so let's go into that a little bit more. So a nested simulation with a Matrioshka brain. So in essence, a Matrioshka brain would be like Russian dolls. So you would take one doll, and then there's greater dolls around a Russian doll. If you're not familiar with a Russian doll, I put as a picture on the screenshot. So you have this Russian doll scenario where one's smaller and then there's larger. It's a nest. So layers, different layers, right? So let's propose that we're, just to take it as a theoretical construct, let's take it that, for instance, let's pretend that we are in a simulation. So if that would be the case, we would be, since we don't have any right now simulations running in our universe of other realities, then we would be at a base level. Now, according to Nick Bostrom, the probability that in Elon Musk, the probability that we're in a type of simulation would be 1 in billions, according to Elon Musk. So if I take this common denominator of 1 in billions chance from these guys who are geniuses and take it to this further extreme, then we would not just be 1 in billions of a simulation, but of that chance, but we would be 1 in billions of simulations. So for 1 in billions of simulations, we would be the base level simulation, which would mean that as a nested Matrioshka brain type of scenario, we'd be at the bottom layer. So let's talk about that. So you're at a bottom layer of a Matrioshka brain, and I'll get more into Matrioshka brains maybe in a minute. But so you're at a bottom layer, and then there's a layer above you, and a layer above you, and a layer above you. So in what's happening, what would happen within that is that let's say you have a civilization. Let's say it's up here. I'm sure it's way shelled up, but let's say you have a civilization, and they end up making like a simulation, right? That civilization makes a simulation. So that simulation ends up getting advanced, and then they make a simulation. So it's a step downwards, right? So then that civilization makes a simulation. You can, you follow, and then you go down the steps. So we would be the theory is that we would be at the base level, right? So you're at the base level of simulations, and there's nested ones above you. Now, so what would a nested simulation base civilization, what might reality seem like to them? Maybe they would have, others that would step in from higher dimensions, right? Maybe like UFOs, and they would step into their simulation, check things out, do their little things, and then go back to their own simulations, right? So that would kind of make sense of what maybe we've seen in this base level simulation, just to take it, those steps further, just to look at it a little bit and have fun with the theory a little bit, and hopefully not freak you out. But let's say that we have that, what are aliens? So aliens, they keep saying we're from another dimension. Maybe that other, quote unquote dimension is just another nested layer of simulation reality. But to them, they think that they're in their reality, which in fact they aren't cognizant that they're in a simulation. So if you're in a simulation of your reality, there's a moral dilemma that would say that maybe the only creatures that would create a simulation to simulate life and like what we are and would be, not, it would be immoral. Certainly there's a case for it to be moral. We don't want to be turned off, right? But let's say it's sliding towards the immoral scale. So if you take a look at the theories and what you've heard about, let's say, reptilians or those kind of aliens, that they're negative, right? So what are the things that we've heard about them, that they don't feel pain? Well, if you were going into another simulation, I think you'd turn off the pain receptors, right, to not work, right? You don't want to play a video game and then have some pain happen. That would not be fun, right? So you would turn off that aspect of it. So that makes sense. They would have low morals. So that makes sense too. They would be able to genetically manipulate things. Well, that makes sense too. When you take a look at the what they say with the gray aliens and those whole things. So they would take, they would take humans or modify them and make whatever. So all these kind of things kind of fall into place when you think about this a little bit, right? And then all the things that you've heard about aliens. And again, not saying any of this is correct, but we're having fun with the theory. So if you step up the line, then you have, like, people say there's what are they called? Palladians and then Arcturians. So maybe you have nested layers of that reality, and within that you have higher layers of our higher layers of simulation that are just on different, you could think of it like different vibrational levels. Now, like I was saying to somebody online, like if you're in line at the gas pump, it doesn't mean that the person in front of you at the gas pump is better morally or better, higher intelligent or anything of that nature. It just means they're in front of you at the gas pump. What I mean to say is if let's say there was a simulation above us, and let's say they've obviously got to the point where they created a simulation, there might be a point that we get more advanced than them technologically or morally or spiritually and all that. There could be that opportunity. Just because they were there first doesn't mean that they're morally or technologically more or less superior than us in a baseline simulation. Now, taking that into account, you can have the higher simulations would plunder the lower simulations because, hi out in Lush, because they can, they created everything. So they could say, hey, I was here first. I did everything here first. We own you. We do everything. Now, there's certainly a moral dilemma behind that. And if you think about the Anunnaki, maybe they created the reptilians. Maybe they're one level, above that. So then it all all this fuzzy math, all this fuzzy things that you heard about, all the rumors, all the things, it kind of makes a little more sense when you put it on perspective of how it could be like we're at nested reality. So what would angels be? Angels would be the the AI. That would be parts of the AI that would be working within all the nested parts of reality to do everything it's supposed to do. And what would be God? God would be the the source, right? That's what people say. God would be the creator. So I'm not saying that this is in fact the case, but we have people like Elon Musk who again, he's a genius and said it's 1 in billions chance it's not. So it behooves us to at least go down the theoretical road a little bit and take a stop and look around and see, what that could mean to us in our reality, and how's that makes sense to you in your life. So a lot of people are always thinking, what is the meaning of life? What is everything? What is it that makes or doesn't make sense? And this kind of theory, although albeit a weak one in certain respects, does jive and make sense to a lot of other aspects of our reality. So if we look at a nested reality, as people look at it as a vibrational sense, it does make a lot of sense in that respect. So I use it as a working theoretical theory to, certainly justify other things. So simulation, and Melinda was nice enough to comment, simulation makes it seem like we're not real. That actually isn't the case. Now, what is real and what's not real? So we're 99% empty space, and the 1% that is there, they can't find it. So what that means is they actually take that particle and you try to quantum position it, that particle is not there. When you view it, then you see it there at that moment, but it's hard to view that one particle. So in essence, we don't exist in a way. And the other essence is, of course, we exist. So what the case for superposition would lend itself to the theory that the simulation hypothesis is correct. Now, when you take that into account and you're taking into quantum entanglement, that you have two particles at the same size, Brave web browser is free. Okay. So when you take in superposition, quantum entanglement rather, you take quantum, and somebody was messaging me, my apologies. If you take in quantum entanglement, you have two particles at the same side of the universe, and those are entangled. What that would mean is, how could that be? How could they go faster in time and space? The only way it could be is if you were in a type of, I hate the word simulation, but type of like a computer holographic based, not computer, but holographic based reality, then that does, in fact, make sense. When we have something that we can't divide into something smaller than the Planck scale, then that does make sense. And when we have something like the double slit experiment, when you look at something at the double slit experiment, and then you can, you'll see something, but if you're not looking at it, it does a different wave effect. So our actual, like in a video game, if you're playing a video game, then there's something there, but if you're not paying attention to it, it's not there. So the case goes to, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? No. So if there's nobody listening to it, it doesn't make a sound, which is, so Einstein said about that, he said, if I was looking at the moon, and the moon, I don't want to believe that if I don't look at the moon doesn't exist, right? So from our point of view, there's enough people on the planet, I guess once in a while looking at the moon, so the moon would be existing all times. But if someone wasn't looking at, if all people on the planet were not looking at the moon, is the moon still there? Good question. In a way, no, because nobody's thinking about the moon, nobody's looking at the moon, moon's not there. Now everybody looks at the moon's there. Our realities, why use up that? As somebody said, the smallest particle in the tetrahedron is a 3D pixel. Right. So actually looks like a Merkaba. So that's the smallest part of that. But that's right. So anyway, so in essence, if you think about our quantum reality as a Matrioshka brain, so just to back up a step, and what's a Matrioshka brain? Like a nested doll, like a Russian doll. You're familiar with that. Brian, I think it was Brian Addis. I want to be deleted, not used in any more simulations. Are we? I didn't say that. Are we capable of excel to the other levels of simulation? So that's people always want to excel, right? I want to get up a higher level. What could be? What are demonic beings? Could they be from a past? Maybe we built a simulation, and then we broke it, and then maybe that's our demonic being trying to get up to our level, trying to possess, trying to get to this level. Maybe that's what's going on. And then we are always thinking we want to get up. Everybody wants to move up a step, right? Why move up a step? Why not be happy with the step you're on? So why? Well, you want to be in reality. What if reality is very boring? Is what Elon Musk says. What if it's really boring? What if it's like a chair and two table, a table and two chairs, and not a lot going on. You know what I mean? And this is the exciting one. So I think the gut reaction is to say, oh, I want to be in a higher simulation. I want the more resolution. That's what we should be saying. I want the one with more resolution. I want the one that doesn't have problems in it. But what are you gonna do, right? So it's all very interesting. I thought I'd voice it. I haven't voiced this before, but I don't see anybody on the web talking about nested realities. Just thought I'd talk about. Oh, I've been talking for 22 minutes. I really got to go in a second. I have to get going, but it's all very interesting. It's all very. Don't let it scare you. I don't think anything bad would happen. Some people say that if you want your reality, keep going, make it interesting. I think I'm making it interesting, but make it interesting for yourself. Somebody said they think it's a quantum parity world, which we're set into the past. There isn't a way to tell. There wouldn't be a way to tell anything about, everything would just be guesses. From your point of view, you couldn't know. But to using the latest scientific theory, most of what I'm saying would be absolutely correct. In fact, the lowest common denominator, let's say the greatest probability, everything what I'm saying is most likely the case mathematically. So take that for what it's worth. Thank you, so much for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed it. Not saying, I'm not saying that everything we experience or enjoy or whatever is worth less. Your rich environment, the rich world that we're in, should be viewed more. Whatever you're experiencing is what you're experiencing. It doesn't mean that it's not valid. It doesn't mean that all the history of everything is not valid. Everything's valid, more than valid. So there's that. The great thinkers in the gurus have always said there's an illusory part of our reality. So now you can think like a guru. Anyway, don't let it worry you. Enjoy yourself, and always be good to other people. Like, and you could think about it, if it was in fact all the case of what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that that's the case, I'm just putting this out there, then there could in fact be a heaven and a hell. Why not? They could do everything else, might as well. There could be a reward system for your doing good and not good. There could be everything's possible and nothing's not possible. So if that's the case, then you should do good things. All right, I have to go. Thanks so much. Like, subscribe, share. Love you all. And if you comment in the comment section, I'll comment back. Thanks. Have a great night. Bye.